Test, test. John Clanson, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and we can hear you. So, so far so good? I will wait a couple of minutes because Murray was supposed to be sitting next to me and just helping out with running the session. We have 2-hour slot. I very much hope that we are not going to use all of it. So yeah, I'll wait a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think the ideal situation would be to use about 20 minutes and then leave.
I suspect it will take a bit longer than 20 minutes, even if we are not going to have any massive discussions, just because of,
Yeah, it depends how much discussion of the AS we have.
Yes. Well, we have our esteemed area director, so maybe I should start. Sure. While we're doing this, who would like to take notes? I'm running out of favors, I'm... You've done great notes for us in the past. Would you like to do this again? Okay, so thank you, Tero and Todd. So I think actually having two people to help out, so okay. Okay, well, he's not blocking for this working group. He's no longer our area director, even though it would be nice to. Okay, so it's Friday afternoon in Madrid, last session of the week. Let's get as energetic and as quick as we can possibly be and get through this and finish early, if we can. So, I'm still Alexei. Todd is online. Here's Not Well. I hope you've seen it before. If not, please make sure you're aware of it before you participate. This is various BCPs governing IETF processes that apply to this, including code of conduct and patents. Okay. So just as a reminder, please treat your colleagues with respect, the way you would like to be treated. So disagreements are fine, but please attack arguments, not people. Speak slowly and don't use slang as much as you can. Use the best engineering judgment. Okay. So we are using Miteco. If you're on site, please use the local tool. You're only allowed to speak at the microphone if you're logged in, and put yourself in a queue. And the same queue is used for remote attendees as well. So we have a space for the shared notes. Thank you, Todd and Ted and Tero. So we have 3 topics this time. One is finishing up IANA considerations cleanup in SMTP spec. Then we'll talk about suggested document, which I'm editor of for IANA cleanup of the registry and what we do about it. And then we'll talk through about remaining applicability statement issues. You might have noticed that there were 17 and 18 version posted this week. If you read version 16 posted a few weeks ago, you will be just fine because all the changes made as well as planned will be discussed. So just a quick reminder where we are. So email core spec is still approved and still in RFC editor's queue. SMTP is also approved, also in RFC editor's queue. There was some IANA cleanups that were happening. We delegated specific suggestions what to do about IANA considerations text to Barry Liba. Thank you, Barry, for doing this. And next presentation will be on this topic. We also have AS document. Yes, sorry, John, I will try to speak up a little bit. AS document, Ken and I and Pete had a quick look at the list of outstanding issues this week, and I think there are only 2 tickets, maybe even 1, for which we're not sure about resolution. Everything else is either already addressed in 17 or 18, or there will be changes proposed on slides, CAN slides today. So I mean, I'm being super optimistic, but we are really, really close. Okay. Okay. Barry's turn. I'm going to.
I will do it from this mic if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
So flip to the next. Okay. So as Alexei said,
before Barry gets started, could
Go
we
ahead.
get a show of hands, the number of people who read all the way through this document since dash 43 was posted?
Okay, please continue, Barry.
Okay. So as Alexei said, he asked me to try to sort out the IANA issues, to take a little load off of John on that. I talked with IANA. I looked at the recent messages that they had sent, looked through everything, and figured. And in my conversation, I realized that we're actually very close to being at a point where IANA will be happy with it, and we will be happy with it, and everybody will be happy, and life will go cheerfully. So there are 3 questions that remain and some simple edits. These on this screen are the simple edits. I don't think there's any controversy on these. It's just a little bit of tweaking text. So there we are. If anybody thinks any of this is wrong, you should let me know. You should let John know. John, are you good with these 3 minor edits?
Yes, and just to express further concurrence, I agree that we're very close. My big concern is that since IANA has apparently signed off on this several times and then changed their minds, come up with more objections, that any changes made have relatively clear consensus of the working group rather than just Barry and I.
Good point. So on the first part of that, I understand that, let's just assume good faith all round and see what happens after this round of changes. As I said on the list, my sense is that IANA will be good with this if all of this, the changes proposed in this deck are there. But we don't know for sure until it happens, so we'll see. But yes, I agree with John. We can take silence as agreement to all of this. I would prefer, as John would, that we have some active yeses to accept these.
I will not at this point make changes on the basis of assuming that silence is agreement, especially given the large number of hands I saw up when I asked the question about who had read this carefully.
Okay. So anyway, we have these minor changes. So let's go to the next slide. Now, the 3 remaining questions are pretty simple ones. It's just a matter of that IANA had found some things that they weren't sure about, some confusion that they had or whatever, and they would like us to be more explicit. So that's what I'm trying to do on these 3 questions. This one says, there's some text that says information that is not supplied with the registration or supplemental documents should be explicitly identified as not supplied or with an explicit note pointing to that phrase. And they're looking at, well, what happens when we have the Model 2 registrations, the one that's basically first come, first serve. If the supplemental documents are not supplied, I mean, is there, sorry, if the supplemental documents are supplied, and it's an FCFS registration, is there an implication here that someone will be examining them, because that's not what IANA is going to do? And I think my answer to this is that I think we don't need to say anything either way about that, that there's no implication here that anybody in IANA is going to look at these supplemental documents. So does anybody think that we need to put text in saying first come, first serve registrations, the supplemental documents are not required, or do we want to just leave the text as it is?
I think they're already optional, right?
They're already optional. The question is simply whether we want to add something that explicitly says that we don't expect supplemental documents for the FCFS registrations, or just leave it as it is. I'm okay with leaving it as it is, and I think IANA will be okay if we have that discussion and that's our decision. I think they'll be okay with it. But I wanted to make sure that we talked about it.
John?
I favor leaving it as it is. This section is already too long and complicated, and And the key to Model 2 is simple.
Okay. So I think we're good there. The IANA's concern there was simply that they want to make sure no one's expecting them to review supplemental documents.
Okay.
And I think that's certainly been clear to us all along. So Pete is wandering up here. So
I suggest we refer this to IANA because they should be addressing the question as to whether anybody is expecting IANA to do anything that they're not
Yes.
explicitly asked to do.
yes.
That's fair. So as a participant, they don't do it for the registries. The only time it's done if there is an expert review involved, and an expert can usually if it's self-certified, so in a template, it's either supplied or not. In theory, in other registries, experts can find the information and help the registrant, but in this case, no, first come, first serve. They are not expected to do anything.
And this is Pete. If I understood John correctly, I think I just agree, which is the text is fine, and we give them a direct answer which says IANA is not expected to check over what's in the supplemental if it exists. Done.
This is just a place where we can have extra documentation if someone wants to put it in, but it can say chicken, 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 and that's just fine. Okay, next one.
You have another question at the bottom. Should we add a note?
No, that was what we were just saying. No, we don't need to add anything to the text. That we all think the text is fine, and we just need to. I need to respond to IANA, and let them know that now we discussed this. We like the text as it is, and no, they're not expected to do anything.
I think the bottom paragraph is whether explicitly say which fields are required for first come, first serve. I think.
Oh, should they add it?
Yes.
Oh.
Sorry, I think this is kind of really a separate issue, isn't it? But.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, maybe it is. Do we want to say that?
I think given the degree of instruction which IANA thinks they need about what should go in there in each entry, that notice is at worst harmless or at best may be helpful.
So
I think you're saying edit, yes?
Yeah.
all right, that's fine.
I tend to agree as well as a participant.
That's fine.
Several thumbs up.
Let's add that, John.
Okay.
John.
Yeah, I generally agree, except 8111 says that it's expected to include the stuff described in 222. So I always hate to try to say things in two places that are supposed to say the same thing.
All right. Well, I mean, I think John can figure out the right place to add that, but yeah, adding a sentence that says this is.
And John, I completely agree, but I think that in the 3 rounds of revisions we made at IANA's request, the requests have repeatedly been in the direction of repeat things over and over again so that we IANA don't have any confusion. And if the question is that if this is not said, IANA would be confused, then I think we should put it in and move on.
Okay. We'll put it in and move on.
Okay, so action recorded, recommend adding a note.
Okay. And in case you're wondering why I keep tilting my head, it's because this camera that's showing you me gets in my way of reading the slide. Anyway, go on to the next. So the second question, I think this is a really easy one. Basically, IANA notes that at the beginning of one of the registries, it says that you can't register something that starts with an X. And what do we want to do with that? And Alexei has pointed out that we have a closed issue that says we've eliminated any restrictions on X. So yeah, the answer is we need to just add a sentence that says IANA should take this out of the registry header. Any objection to that result? And I hear no objections.
Fine.
So there we go.
Yes,
Question? Yeah.
This issue was from 2021. It was so long ago that most of us forgotten
Yes.
that we decided this.
So what that means is the action here is that we just need to add a sentence somewhere in the IANA considerations that asks IANA to take this sentence out of the note at the top of the service extensions registry.
Okay.
Question 3. This is a similar sort of thing. There's this reference to IPv6, how you format IPv6 addresses in text. The reference is a numbered reference from the old spec that doesn't apply here and doesn't make sense without context anyway. And the reference has changed since 5321 anyway. So what we should do is put also a sentence in the IANA considerations that asks IANA to change this reference to be RFC 5952, which is the current reference to IPv6 text format, address text formats. And I see thumbs ups and no objections. And I believe that's the last slide.
Yep.
So we're done. With that, I think we will be good. John.
Reflecting a comment about sadness that Pete made in a text, the editor is extremely inclined to add a subsection to IANA considerations saying it should be perfectly obvious to anyone who is reading the IANA considerations sensibly that followed by 2 bullet points, one of which is the previous thing and the other of which is this one, but I won't do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Victor?
In addressed literals, do we really need the IPv6 representation to be in canonical form? RFC 5952 defines sort of the standard form of IPv6 addresses. But here, I don't see a need for a representation that's necessarily canonical, so long as it's merely parsable. The consumer should be able to use it.
I think we don't need to worry, but nobody uses this format much anymore. It's rather historical. But John, you want to respond?
I don't think that's true, actually.
Yeah, I agree, Barry, but again, given that IANA has been pressing us for very, very specific language and very specific instructions, I don't think taking these instructions out at this point is either necessary or desirable. Let's just correct the reference and move on.
Right, that's my point on this, that having a current reference is all we need to do. We don't need to be more specific or anything like that.
Okay. So we're not saying that IPv6 literals are restricted to only the canonical form, right, by doing this?
Correct. We're just saying here, if you want to know how to represent IPv6 literals, here's the reference. We fixed it. It's not 17 anymore. It's RFC 5952. That's all.
Okay.
And we also actually have a BNF in the document anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other issue here is that I'd like to avoid anything which has even the vaguest whiff of being a substantive change, because somebody might turn around and argue the ISC should review this again.
Good point.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'm done here.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess I will say that the action for me on this is to respond, to close the loop with IANA and respond with a summary of the changes we're making, and let them know we're done.
Thank you.
Could you make certain you post a copy of that note to the list, or if you talk with them orally, post the summary to the list.
Okay, so moving on to the second topic is if people remember, so 5321 bis is doing changes to the registries, and we discovered that existing stuff in the registries already requires some fixes on top of that. Do I need to repeat what's in the draft I'm proposing? Do people want to hear again? Okay. So I'll just skip the slide, but this is for your reference in case you want to read. I have two slides just again demonstrating the difference. This is what will end up being in the registry after 5321 bis. As you can see, some columns will have values pointing to RFC numbers. And also length added will be not supplied initially. So in my proposed draft, it will fix that. These columns, additional verbs and male RCPT2 parameter values will be filled in. Length added will be added. Also, in some cases, message submission use will be corrected to correspond to reference documents. Are people okay with me so far? Okay, some thumbs up. Okay. So, yes, John.
It may have gotten, no, it didn't go by too fast. There's an explicit requirement in 5321 that whether something was a registration under Model 1 or Model 2 be in the registry. And I'm not seeing that here.
It's a lot. Sorry, can you repeat the question? So my last line is demonstrating first come, first serve registration.
Understood that this correctly shows what one of those registrations would look like.
Yeah.
The requirement in 5321 bis is that there be an explicit column here indicating which registration model was used. And I'm not seeing that column in this slide.
Or registration model, whether it's first come, first serve or not. Yes, registration method.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
Oh, I see.
4,
Okay,
5,
sorry.
6. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Didn't see it on the screen. Good, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, it's a lot of columns. So yeah, it's already there. All right. So I think we had several rounds of discussion around Bangkok IETF on this. There was a suggestion that this document can be adopted either in mail maint or email core. I think John Clenson was saying later that email core sounds like a better place for it. As the author of this document, I don't really care. Email core is fine. I think if we are doing this, the next step is to ask for adoption of this document by email core. John?
The reason for email core is it makes it much easier for us or the IASG to make a decision that this is part of the same, whatever the RFC editor is now calling, group of documents as the others.
Sure.
And this doesn't get published before 5321 bis. And that the two or any changes, the two are fully coordinated. So that was the reason for that. Thank you.
Okay. I honestly, I'm between I don't care and I have no objections. So I think that's absolutely fine with me. So obviously I will need to ask my co-chair to start adoption call because I'm author of this document. But I assume people are happy for me to talk to my co-chair to start this. Okay, sounds good.
Alexei, this is Ken real quick. This might be slightly premature, but if this particular document ends up being the only one remaining in email core, we could certainly have joint meetings with mailmates just to deal with this document rather than taking up 2 slots.
Absolutely. And thank you. That makes sense. Okay, so, all right. With that, and the next set of slides is AS and Ken. We should try. Let me try. See, hold on. Try it. Perfect. Yep.
Okay. Issues that we closed since 122. These were either was text that we agreed to in Bangkok or just slightly before that. So these are the 3 that have been closed. Nothing much to say about that. Okay, actually, I should start by saying I apologize for not getting to doing any edits to this until this week. I will do better before Montreal. In fact, any changes we agree to here, I'll make a commitment to do on the plane home so I don't forget about them. Okay, things that you'll see in version 18, which was posted, I think, yesterday, taking Pete's recommendation that we change all instances of optional and required to opportunistic and enforced. I think we had kind of agreed to that in Bangkok anyways. I don't think this is controversial. Anybody have any issues making those changes? I see none.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, a lot of text here. This text was proposed by Pete back in Bangkok. It is pretty much the same other than the last sentence, which he rewrote based on our feedback in Bangkok. And Dave Crocker did a little bit of wordsmithing in the middle, which Pete was happy with, and I didn't see any issues with it. So hopefully we can agree that this is going to be fine. I'll give people a couple minutes to read it. I get a thumbs up from Barry. Yep, couple thumbs up. So I think we are in a position to close 113. Thank you very much. Okay, this one was pretty simple. We didn't like the description that I put in for DKIM. Todd Herr suggests we just take the first sentence of the introduction from 6376 and use that as the new description. I got a thumbs up from Barry and Murray, and if Murray doesn't like the text, then he can blame himself. Any issues with this? No, okay, we will close 138. Okay, this one, John Clenson had asked for some clarification of hop by hop versus end to end. Pete agreed to write some text. So he added this last sentence to section 6.2. I'll give people a few seconds to read that. Was there one?
It's another slide. There is a... Wait, I think there is another slide on the follow-up one. Try to flip the next slide.
I don't think there was one for 6.1, Pete.
Oh, it's 6.3. Yep, sorry.
Yes.
You want this one first?
Nope, you're right. We got it in the right order.
Okay.
I just misread this. So yeah, this occurs, in basically 2 places. The second one in 6.3 is just a pointer back saying it's just the same as here.
Victor, comment on this text?
Yeah, the text may claim too much. I mean, even with message level encryption, you don't know who it's encrypted to in some cases. It may be encrypted to a gateway, which may then, transfer it multiple hops further that may have access to clear text.
So I can try and soften the last sentence a little. Do you want to suggest text? Because, I mean, my gut is I was trying to say It's not getting you end to end.
Right. But apparent end-to-end isn't always end-to-end either. So the claim
Right.
completely assure is too strong a claim. So I'd like to soften that somehow.
You want to just get rid of completely, or is assure still too strong?
Yeah, that would help. It may be enough. Let me think about it, but at least I would drop completely.
Drop
Because,
drop a note on the list saying that this would do it, and we'll
Yeah,
call it good.
I'll post to the list with the proposed text, and then we can bash it online.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks.
similarly, we added some text in 6.3, which Pete also crafted. Give people a chance to read that.
This one I think is safer, is because it's a pointer back, so it doesn't actually make the same claim.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, the other solution would be to instead of, or in addition, drop it completely, would be to change the sentence a little bit to indicate that the to indicate the message level confidentiality has to be properly designed to point to the recipient.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the clearer change.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of awkward to use confidentiality twice in the last sentence that way, but tweak the text and it's fine.
Victor, comment on this as well?
I forgot to turn off the queue thing.
Okay. All right. Again, I'll post to the list with both of these pieces of text, and we can bash it online. But I don't think we have a big blocker here to moving forward.
I think we have addressed the issue. We just need to wordsmith the text.
Bingo. Okay. Next.
Can I suggest, just to be a bit of a slave driver, make sure that if no suggestions are proposed, then you integrate it as is, and then people, if people really want to scream later on, then they can. Is it already in the document?
No.
This one is not.
Well, it's in my copy, but it has not been posted.
Okay.
Okay. Remaining open issues. This one's been hanging around for a while. John, do you still have issues with, or still care about this?
I promised myself in the working group that I was not going to pay any attention to this document until 5321 bis was wrapped up. I think that implies you're going to get text over the weekend.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Next. I'm trying to remember where this came from. This
Robert Sayer.
Yeah, Robert Sayer wanted us to mention that MTA-STS fixes an active attack. We already mentioned MTA-STS down in the enforced confidentiality area. So I added this text. We can certainly bash back and forth, but just as a pointer down there, that if you're concerned about this man-in-the-middle attack, go down here and see how enforced confidentially works. Are we comfortable with this? Anybody want to suggest better text? I'm sure there is better text out there. Victor.
I think I like what I see here, and wouldn't want to claim that MTA-STS by itself is the only thing that will do the job, or even whether it doesn't. So yeah, it's good to do this by reference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody absolutely hate this text and wants me to change it? Okay, good. I think we can close 134. Okay, 135. This text was already in the document. Rob wanted a little bit of rewrite. I highlighted the changes here. It's just basically moving some things around. It looked pretty uncontroversial to me. Barry says thumbs up. Give people a few seconds. Pete, I think this was originally your text. Do you have any issues with this? No, Pete says no. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think what it was trying to achieve is kind of to show that there is two fallback for opportunistic. One is go to clear text, and second, even if you do TLS, you might still not verify service certificate, in which case it's still non-confidential. You cannot, So yeah, I think this looks fine.
Victor?
Yeah, I don't know whether this point really is worth making in any way, but sites that advertise Start TLS, if the Start TLS fails, some senders will not fall back to clear text and some will. And I'm not sure if the ambiguity here, this suggests that necessarily there's always a fallback when a connection cannot be established, whatever that means. If you advertise Start TLS, then sometimes, in fact, you end up stuck with it. Some senders don't fall back unless
But
Start TLS is offered.
It says the ability to fall back. It doesn't imply that they always will. So I think we're fine.
Okay.
Okay, we're good with this change? All right, I think 135 can be closed. Moving right along. Okay, this one, it's going to look a lot more complex than it is. We've got, Mary?
Could we get away with not saying the largest mailbox providers bit?
Yeah.
The bottom.
Sounds good.
If you strike that clause, I think this still holds the same amount of weight. It's technically correct, and it takes away the overweight influence of the.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, everything between the commas you want gone? Okay. That is doable. Okay, back to the web form, email address, syntax stuff. So this is what's currently in 18. Does a pointer work? Oh, excellent. So in here, we list a couple things that are different between the two syntaxes. We've got quoted strings, limited characters and domains. We talk about non-ASCII characters here. And then down here, we talk about leading, trailing, consecutive dots. We also decided in Bangkok that we didn't really want to point people at the HTML grammar necessarily to figure out what to use. So Alexia and I spent some time a couple of days ago. We came up with this new ABNF using non-terminals in 21 bis. And all I did, the rest of the changes here, I just made a bulleted list of what the incompatibilities are between the two specs. I thought it just kind of flowed better. And we're actually, pointing people at this ABNF if you're trying to use email addresses in forms. The only other thing that I want to mention, there is a second bullet, which I couldn't fit on the slide, but this first bullet here kind of duplicates stuff in here. So I might actually take this particular piece of guidance and put the, discourage from using up in here in the third bullet point, but that's just editorial, and I'm not going to die on that hill if people want to keep it as is. John?
Okay. Can I, in case people forgot, I can explain what actually the change is.
Okay.
Basically, in a local part, you can either have quoted string or dot separated atom list. So this is just saying just use dot separated atom list. And it also prevents all the issue with the HTML spec where multiple dots and sequence are allowed.
Yeah, and domain removes the ability to use a domain literal in there. Yeah,
IP address, which is, I'm not sure it's even going to work in many cases anyway. So
go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm going to put on my internationalization hat for a moment and just note that this discourages the use of any non-ASCII email address for any content in any context that might conceivably be used in HTML form, and that contradicts other IETF standards recommendations, and either may require some qualifications, or we should be very, very clear that's exactly what we're recommending.
that's a good point. Yes, we haven't.
Off the top of your head, John, do you have a alternate ABNF which might work, or would you be willing to look at it and see how we can tweak this?
I certainly don't have alternate ABNF that would work. I would point to aren't two drafts in mailmate as symptomatic of the issue here.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
and I can try to think of some text, but not off the top of my head.
Okay, great.
Okay, let's take it to the mailing list. Murray?
My pet peeve in this space has always been pluses on the local part because MTAs allow those, but forms traditionally have not. I know that our grammar allows it, but would it be worth putting in this list something that's adding to your list that's now enabled? If indeed that's the case.
So technically,
Yep.
HTML5 ABNF already allowed for that, even though it wasn't clear. Because they were using a text which allows pluses. I believe.
Okay. Is the HTML reference there to HTML5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
I will fix
I
that.
think it's
I'll
an
fix the
interesting
reference to
point
C5.
whether we want to explicitly say note that this actually allows for these characters. I
Right.
don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to become a kitchen sink of everybody's favorite thing that got fixed. It's enough for me that was fixed. If that's a favorite of anybody else's besides me, I would love to see it in there.
Yeah, the basic goal here is to come up with something that is going to be safe in forms and work all the time. Internationalization notwithstanding, I think that's something definitely to work, to look into. Yeah, do off the top of your head, does dot string not include plus addresses?
Yes, and atom allows for pluses and
Okay.
dishes. So it is fine. I don't know. Do we need an example demonstrating plus address? Just, like, I don't know.
Murray withdraws his recommendation. Okay, I'll take this to the list and we will work on the internationalization if at all possible. Victor?
Don't the words "at least" really mean that this doesn't in any way discourage internationalization? I mean, this says that you can't do less than what we're seeing here.
Yes.
Unless we're saying that really internationalization is a hard requirement for HTML forms, and some HTML forms may be targeting a subset of addresses where they really know that they're never going to support transmission of IDNA email and may be okay with the effect that they're having. Anyway, that's the thought.
Yeah, we might need to have like two ABN apps, if you support EAI, then this is what you do. But okay, let's take it to the list.
John, do you have another point?
Yeah, I first of all going to reinstate Murray's objection, because to the extent to which the applicability statement is supposed to be talking about and getting us out of interoperability traps, it is worth mentioning the plus sign, even though the restriction on the W3C side is obsolete. It is still a very, very popular problem. I had a fierce argument within the last 3 days with a vendor who doesn't think that plus signs belong in email addresses, because once upon a time, W3 said so, and their obsolete library does that. So a note here which says that either that one better follow HTML5 or one better be prepared for interoperability problems if things like plus are excluded is probably in order. And the other observation, having fought this battle on the W3C side and continue to fight this battle on the W3C side, don't hold your breath for a definitive statement from them about internationalization. So this is you've got an interoperability problem here, potentially, and if you decide to go with internationalized addresses, you've got to be wary about places which are going to use HTML forms. If you're going to use plus signs, you better be wary about places which are using obsolete HTML forms. But this is a real interoperability issue, and I think the positive recommendation here is modulo tweak and correct, but we also want to be warning about those interoperability issues.
Okay,
Okay.
I think there is a preference to add some text about plus, at least to to say in particular that, note that this ABNF allows for plus sign and
Barry?
This is Barry Leba. I suggest that you also contact the Universal Acceptance Group at ICANN and pass this by them. Their goal is to make sure that web forms and other such things accept the kinds of addresses that are being used out there in the world, and just make sure that we're not conflicting with the advice that they're giving. John said it's shut down. Yeah, but we should contact the people who were working on that, and
sure.
I was gonna at the very least between John and Arndt get their input. Pete.
I'll try and make this quick. I tend to agree with Victor that going into internationalization in this bit is probably not worth doing, because we're saying, at least at the minimum, even if you're doing the stupidest web form in the world on an old piece of software, and if we want to expand out to that, we can, this you got to do. If we start going down the path of internationalization, we are hereby trying to convince W3C, in effect, to deal with the internationalization problem. And I don't think this document is the place to do it. 5322 already says nothing about anything beyond ASCII. To lift heaven and earth to put into the AS stuff about internationalization on web forms, I think is a step too far.
I'd be more than happy not to do that.
Then, yeah, to Pete, of course, 5322 doesn't say anything about it because it doesn't talk about web forms. The point here is we're not saying what you do with email addresses in a message. We're talking about what you accept in a web form when somebody's signing up for your service and that kind of thing. So maybe the answer is we just shouldn't say anything about that here. I don't know.
Just to answer Barry, I think what I'm saying is we are trying to get minimal interoperability here. That's the point of this text is, people currently do dumb things in web forms that are not interoperable at all, like leaving out pluses. Leaving out internationalized email addresses ain't one of the things that causes mass interoperability problems. We should address the things that do. Say you at least have to meet this bar. There's other things you can do that would introduce better interoperability with other standards, but I don't even think that's worth saying out loud.
Okay, thanks. So other than the actual grammar itself, are everybody okay with my little reorganization here, using the bullet list rather than putting all the differences in inline text? Okay, great. So
John, final word on this.
Yeah, I'm going to slightly disagree with Pete. I think it is the responsibility of this document to point out interoperability problems that we know about, and interoperability problems which in some countries which non-ASCII addresses are in very large use are really can really be major. And I don't think we need to make a recommendation about them, but to say if you are going to do X, there may be dragons on both sides of the path is both appropriate and entirely reasonable to do here. It doesn't need to go much further than 2822 does, which is to say there are these internationalized addresses out there, and they are not fully deployed around the world. And if you use them in places where they're not fully deployed, you will get into interoperability problems. If you want to say that does the job, and that doesn't even need to be tied to HTML if you don't want to tie it to it.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm going to post this to the list. So any language changes we want to make, we can hash out there. Victor.
Yeah, just quickly, my suggestion would be to keep the at least form, but maybe add another sentence that says, furthermore, you're encouraged to then do more, including internationalization. So we set the low bar, but don't suggest it as the target. It's just the minimum. It's not the best practice.
Yeah, I'm getting
So
a lot
we
of.
can both set
lot
the
of-
minimum and encourage more.
Yep, thank you for that. Getting a few nodded heads. So looks like people are happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's very agreeable.
All right, that's the last slide.
Okay.
So I think we closed 4 out of 6 here. It's a pretty damn good batting average, actually.
If you can post 19 very soon, that would make this chair very, very happy.
It'll either happy tonight or sometime tomorrow from the airplane.
Yeah, let's do that. And then I know there are some minor tweaking still outstanding. We can still do it on 19. So let's get as close as to being done as possible.
Yep. It will not be done the week before Montreal. I can promise you that. It'll be this upcoming 36 hours.
I want a Melco retirement party in Montreal. So, if I can have it my way. Okay. Thank you all. I think.
Todd, did you have something?
Not for you, Ken. It's for Alexi. It's a procedural question.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Todd.
The document that you want to call for adoption, just to clarify, we're still doing that in email core, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The document you want me to start the call for adoption on, your document that we discussed earlier today.
Yes.
We're doing that in email core, correct? Not mail main? Okay.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Victor?
Yeah, I saw brief mention of the CNAME topic, but not enough detail, and I haven't been tracking the group very closely lately. This is about CNAMEs on the right-hand side of MX records in SMTP, or is it something else?
Correct. And I think there was already a tweak in the base in SMTP spec, and then John wanted to suggest more text, but we're not entirely sure what the issue is.
So I'm hoping somebody can clarify it a little bit because I'm interested in that topic. What I do know is that almost all MTAs allow CNAMEs in that space, even though it's discouraged by the spec. And roughly speaking, a fraction of 1% of SMTP servers are CNAMEd. So not small, but not entirely negligible. So there is some motivation perhaps to say, okay, let's tolerate it officially. I don't know where this idea is going generally, but in terms of all my surveys of what all the various domains are doing, there's a non-trivial, if small fraction of violators of the current SMTP spec whose MX hosts are CNAMEs to other names.
Murray, can you bring your questions to the mic, please? John, I'll let Murray ask questions and then you can comment.
I hesitate to come to the mic with my question because it could be go read the document and the answer is there. I was just curious, what is the problem? Is it MX is pointing to CNAME, CNAME is pointing to MXs, CNAME chains, all of the above? John's probably ready.
John?
Okay, Victor, the first thing just to clarify, in earlier versions of SMTP, I can't remember when we changed it, there was an absolute prohibition against using CNAMEs on the right-hand side of an MX file. That prohibition was removed. As I say, I can't remember whether we didn't get around to removing it until 5321 bis or whether it got removed in ancient times.
No, we used to have a prohibition of CNAMEs in the domain part of email addresses. That got removed. So in other words, you can now send email to user@CNAME. That got fixed in 5321, maybe in fact in the 2800 series, don't recall. However, the prohibition on the use of CNAMEs on the right-hand side of an MX target remains. It is still there in 5321. However, it is not infrequently, like 1% or so, violated. And, those sites rely on that to get their mail. And the question is, what, if anything, do we want to do about this reality? Because all the mainstream MTAs don't care. They just resolve the name to an address and follow all the C names, and it causes no problems.
Okay.
That's where we are today.
The difficulty with user C names, even more so on MX records and on the right-hand side of addresses, is that if you're going to allow them, you need some kind of loop detection, or you end up in potentially serious problems. I noticed Murray nodding vigorously. So if we are going to remove, first of all, if the right thing to do is to remove this prohibition, then at the result of causing me and half the people in the room apoplexy, we need to reopen 5321 bis and do it. And that'd be a new change and raising all the issues about possible ASC review.
Right.
If we want to simply say this, which is what my draft text said the last time I looked at it, that this is a frequently violated prohibition, violating isn't, and I'm approximating here, frequently violated prohibition, violating the prohibition, not particularly a good idea, but if you're going to violate it, you need to take precautions against referencing loops in the DNS, then that's something I think we can do here. And as I say, my draft text, if my memory serves me correctly, says exactly that.
Right. By and large, the loops are taken care of by the resolver that resolves this to IP addresses anyway, right? This is standard resolver functionality that when you ask them for a record, they already chase all the C names and do the resolution.
But there is no requirement in DNS spec that a resolver do that. So that's
actually there is. Resolvers are required to chase C names. However, some MTAs, notably one I'm involved with, you guys know I work on postfix, don't assume that the resolvers do it and make up for resolvers that might not. Yeah. The resolver is absolutely required to chase C names. That's part of the DNS specs. Anyway, look, bottom line, yes, the reality is that MTAs support this, and a tiny fraction of users rely on it. Do we care to say anything about it? Up to the group. But the C names on the in the domain part of the address are already fully supported by the specs. So it's only MX host name. Can that be a C name? That's the only kind of question in the air, as it were. And I'm just kind of mentioning what the current status is, really, and leaving up to you guys to decide what, if anything, to do about it.
If there's time to get into the archaeology of this now, I would be very interested to know why this prohibition was ever there in the first place, because it strikes me as a total layering violation to care what the DNS does with C names. But there's something here I don't
back
know.
in the days of RFC 1035 in DNS, there were recommendations at the DNS level to say that certain kinds of records should not be C name value. So at the time, there were suggestions to not put C names on the right-hand side of MX or NS or various other places because they could cause problems. And then RFC 822 and others may have just mimicked or repeated those recommendations, essentially. They were dropped later for the right-hand side of domains, but remained, such as they were. And then you also lose the ability to get the addresses directly in the additional section if the authoritative server could immediately hand off the result. So there are efficiency considerations as well.
But in fact, for technical correctness, I suppose we never needed to care. We just did.
Right. We never needed to care. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
So long as the MX host resolves, it's okay if it's a C name. That's where we are today.
The dawn of this prohibition started, to answer Murray's question, at least according to my vague memory, and I think this is consistent with what Victor just said. The dawn of this prohibition dates from the dawn of the DNS, where there's a great deal of concern about efficiency, about not going into things which would require progressive DNS calls to get records straightened out. And the authors, if my vague memory serves me correctly, of this prohibition were named Petrus and Postel.
Go ahead.
since we stopped caring about high-speed DNS performance and the usage of UDP rather than TCP, maybe we don't care about this anymore either.
So I know, John, you sort of semi-promised text this coming weekend to resolve this issue. What can you give me some sneak preview of what you're thinking of saying? Because it seems like perhaps we want to just say nothing.
Well, I think what I was planning on saying, and again, my memory of text which is already written but has not been posted, but I haven't looked at it in months, is that it says essentially what I said a few minutes ago, which is that the prohibition is there, that people violate the prohibition, and that those who violate the prohibition ought to be careful.
So I'm looking at 5321 bis, which is identical to 5321. In section 5.1, it says an MX record with a CNAME as its target is a misconfiguration, as explained in RFC 2181. However, implementations should, big should, still process CNAME responses when received, since a significant number of servers on the internet are configured with MX records pointing to CNAMEs. So I'm trying to figure out, the only restriction that says you can't use a CNAME is in hello or eHello, and I'm not sure if we care that much about it, but what restriction are you talking about, Victor, that says that you can't use CNAMEs?
I was referring to the thing you quoted, so maybe it's less restrictive than I remember.
Yeah, it's basically saying 2181 said you shouldn't, but you should.
This is why I asked what John had in mind, because the text you just quoted, I would just strike the whole thing and be done with it. It's not our thing anymore. We don't care. Oh, well.
I'm of course perfectly happy with that outcome. At some stage in the game, I was told the right text.
You still get acknowledgments for submitting null text. That's awesome.
I think this might have changed, so I think I would rather keep the text as is, as long as we're happy with it.
And what I just said to Murray off mic is there's comments about CNAMEs and MX records sprinkled throughout the document. I think you're going to pull on a thread that's going to start to unravel the sweater before too long. Leave it as it is.
Okay. Final. The only thing I would say is the statement that it's a misconfiguration could arguably eventually go, but probably not in the context of email core. So that's probably what I'm remembering, is that it's still described as a misconfiguration, even though it's widely tolerated. Yeah.
So the conclusion is I should just strike this paragraph, strike everything, write this paragraph off my list.
Are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think the resolution is I'm going to close the issue with no change. Please minute this. Okay, and actually with this, we should have, once Ken does an update, we should have 0 open issues on AS, which makes me very happy. So depending how quickly Ken can post a new version and we can tweak the remaining minor issues discussed today, we can even initiate a working group last call. Realistically, I probably will wait till September just because of holidays, but other than that, I mean, or if people want, I can have a 6 weeks last call. That works too, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no reason to delay the start. You delay the end.
Okay. Enjoy your 6 weeks last call and please don't delay until the very last moment. Okay. And with this, I think the next steps is Barry collaborate with John to integrate the IANA changes. Todd will, I will talk to Todd, but he might start last call on adoption call on my
I
draft.
started it. It's already started.
Oh, excellent. Well, please lock the door and please don't let anybody leave until you reply that it is adopted. And then, yeah, Ken will revise AS and we'll go to working group last call. Thank you all. Yes, last word.
Just to clarify, we have 2 issues that we're going to take to the list, so they will not be in 19. The text we agreed to, I will put in version 19. The 2 other issues we'll take to the list and hash out the text. One was the ABNF internationalization thing, and the other one escapes me. Pete's going to tweak his text. The hop to hop text.
The completely assured confidential.
My preference as a chair that you post incorporating all the changes as presented on the slides, and then we do -20 if we need to. How's that?
I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just wondering if,
I can wait for -20 for working group last call.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I think we want to have those 2 things be separate threads in the list so we know what we're talking about and people can focus rather than trying to dig through the version to see what they do and don't like. If I'm,
We
if you understand what I mean.
can do this in parallel though.
Okay. We'll chat afterwards.
Fine, okay. Basically, my preference is to have some text, even if it's not perfect, so that if people just read the document and don't follow the mailing list, they might still comment. So, yeah. Yes. All right. Thank you. Done.
Time to cut. So, Ken, you put the completely assured confidentiality text stuff in 18. It's already in there. Okay. My post text.
Okay.
So all we have to do is have a discussion on the list. I can start that by saying, here's what's currently in the document in those 2 sections. Here's some suggestions. I will write past you. What? Also discussing so you might guess all that. That's okay. How does that make sense? Go back. Yeah, that's cool.